This is Rob Pirie with the Coffee Runs Deep podcast, where we interview coffee farmers, coffee roasters, and we share their stories. I truly hope you enjoy the experience. What's going on, everybody? Rob Pirie here, and we have an exciting guest on today. His name is Martín Granda. He's from Ecuador. His farm is Siempre Verde Farms. It's always green. We got some exciting topics we're going to be diving into today. We're going to be discussing the fermentation process that they actually use on their coffee. We're going to be going into the different coffee regions of Ecuador. We're going to be discussing how they price their coffee and stuff like that. We're also going to go into the potential origin trips that they're going to do in the future, as far as kind of like an Airbnb, one of the farmhouses they have there. That seems pretty cool. I'm kind of interested in, how that kind of is going to play out. And then also, we're going to kind of touch on the diversification of their farm. They don't just farm coffee. They farm other types of crops and even some things you may not would consider that people down there would farm. So I think it's pretty cool. With that being said, I truly hope you enjoyed this episode, and I had a great time talking to Martín. What's going on, Martín Granda?
Hey Rob, how are you?
Pretty good, dude. Yeah, truly appreciate you getting on here and kind of doing this with me. I know you're a coffee farmer down in Ecuador, and yeah, dude, just wanted to get you on, hear your story, kind of see how long y'all been doing it. What do y'all do exactly, and what type of coffees and stuff like that? So just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Appreciate the opportunity. I think what you're doing and what you're hoping to achieve with this, it's pretty cool, just to give a lot more exposure to the producing side of the coffee industry. So yeah, right on. This is pretty cool. So my family, we live in Ecuador. We got into the specialty coffee industry around 2015. So if anything, we probably would be considered baby farmers by some standards in the industry. There's people that have been doing this for a lot longer. But we got into coffee farming in 2015 because of a government initiative to introduce specialty coffee in Ecuador. There were some farmers that were doing this for way before this initiative, but I think the government in around 2015 kind of saw the opportunity to, because of specialty coffee was growing around the area. You have Colombia, Peru, Brazil, so they kind of saw an opportunity to introduce the industry a little bit more in the country. So we were one of, I don't know really how many pilot farms they had, but we were one of the pilot farms that the Ministry of Agriculture work with. And they initially provided the seeds, the technical support to kind of get us going and help us enter into the industry. So when we started, we really didn't know nothing about coffee farming. 6 years later, we've learned a lot about coffee farming and just everything that goes into the industry. But that's kind of how we got started. Prior to that, in our family-owned farm that we've had in the family for many generations. My grandparents used to produce coffee, but at a very commercial level. And we're talking about the 1960, 1970. So kind of back in the day, not a lot of infrastructure, not a lot of technology. As a matter of fact, one of the stories that my family has shared about coffee from my grandparents is how they used to pick the coffee at the farm, dry it at the farm, but then they would have to take the coffee by donkey to another farm nearby where it would be picked up and then taken through car 2 hours away from there to the milling station, because there was no coffee infrastructure anyway around us. So that's kind of a little bit about the history of coffee in our farm and our family. So if you take into consideration my grandparents, you could say they're first generation. My parents, they're second generation, and I'm third generation. And kids that come after us, they would be considered fourth generation. But yeah, we've been in the specialty coffee industry since 2015. The two varieties that we are growing right now are Típica Mejorado and then the Red Caturra. Típica Mejorado it's a very interesting variety. Not a lot of people, I think, either have heard of it or know of it. And there's actually a little bit of back and forth, or where that varietal was really, where it really came from. Some people say it was a mix between bourbon and geisha. So there's a little bit of uncertainty as to what type of varietal, where that came from. But if you watch some of the competitions, the producer competitions that take place, Typica is one of those varietals that a lot of farmers in Ecuador
Yeah.
have, and it does really well.
Did y'all choose those two, or did like the government was that part of the initiative, what they were gonna kind of push?
So we didn't necessarily choose them, and I'm not even sure that when we started the project we had the knowledge to say this variety would do really well here and there. So I think so what they did is they kind of paired us up with people that were already growing coffee, and they helped us get the seeds from those farms and things like that. So, but it has paid off really well. Those are two really good varieties, and they've done really well for us.
Yeah, I've heard of the Regator before, and the Typica I've heard a good bit about. So that's pretty cool. So y'all already had like the land. So the initiative really wasn't to like give any like land or anything. It was more to just help you already kind of build out like specialty coffee on land you already had then, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So how big is y'all's farm then down there?
So our farm is pretty big. Our farm obviously has been passed down from generation to generation. We have about like 60 or 70 hectares, but not everything is farmable land, and not everything is coffee producing. The area that we really have used at this point for coffee farming is just a little bit over 2 hectares. And so we kind of designated that area specifically for specialty coffee. And now 6 years later, we're looking into expanding that, and hopefully in the future adding other varietals.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You know about how
we
big a
started pretty
hectare is?
small. No.
Not in acres. I'm curious about that. I'm gonna have to look that one up. So y'all grow other things though already.
Yeah, so I just looked it up real quick. So 1 hectare is about 2.5-ish acres.
Okay. Oh wow.
So 5 acres, then
Yeah.
I guess with 2 hectares. Yeah, so coffee was kind of like an added on project that we took on in 2015. Prior to that, what my parents have been, this whole time for for a little while, been specializing is in ferns. They grow ferns at the farm, and that kind of has been the main thing that we've done at the farm for a long time. And then even prior to coffee, we do have kind of like the coffee right now shares the space in some of the areas with some of the fruit trees that were already there. So we have oranges and we have avocados. Those are the two main produce that we have at the farm too. But those are also very small scale, kind of like the coffee is. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel? I mean, would y'all ever switch over to like a monocrop where you only did coffee, or would you keep that diversification in case of fluctuations and stuff like that? Because honestly, it seems kind of like the smart way to move. If the coffee prices are down, you still got other things you'd be able to kind of sell and do. Would y'all ever consider doing all coffee, or probably not?
I mean, that's a very interesting question. I think for us, up to this point, the driver really at the farm, what has allowed us to provide for us, and also to provide for the team that works with us, it has been the ferns. That has been a very stable market, and we've been in it for 20 plus years. So we're pretty established in Ecuador, and in terms of that. And it's since there's such a good amount of stability in that market, I think it would probably be hard to move away from it. We've also built a lot of infrastructure for that market specifically. But I mean, coffee is definitely an interesting market to be in. It at least for us at this point, I don't think that the coffee would be the only thing that we could do to make ends meet, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost seems like it'd be kind of more risky if you did go completely into coffee. Um, so so how many kind of coffee farms are there down in Ecuador? Like when you're driving around, do you see many or is it kind of rare for y'all?
I don't think is as common as you would think from other countries, you know, countries like maybe like Brazil or Colombia. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of it is also based on location. So there are certain regions in Ecuador where coffee is grown, and there's some other ones where it isn't. But I would say that at least in the four main regions that we have, so we have the highlands, the mountains where we're in, the coastal region, the rainforest, and the Galapagos. And all the four regions, there is a specialty coffee being grown. But at least to my knowledge, I'm not sure that there are any like mega farms out there. I think a lot of them are kind of smaller to medium-sized producers. And I think at least in our case, our farm is in a pretty remote area, so you would have to drive out of the way to even come across it or know that it's there.
Yeah.
I know of at least another farm within the vicinity of maybe like an hour, and they do really good specialty coffee as well. Um, and then some of the other farms that I know, in our province are a little bit farther away than that.
Okay. So as far as like, I think you said about 5 acres is what it would kind of equal out to. Um, do you pick it? Do y'all pick it yourselves? Like, how long does it take to kind of pick 5 acres, and then do you do anything with it, or is it pretty much just bagged up and y'all bring it to like a mill or something?
Yeah. So it's based on seasons, right? So your harvest season can be from, this year for us, our harvest season started right around like March, February and March, and we're going, pretty strong. We think that we're gonna go through August and maybe a little bit into September with what would be considered like the main harvest. So that's harvest or a time frame that you find yourself picking coffee 3 to 4 days a week, for the majority of the day. So and then the rest of the months either is like very low yield, that doesn't require a lot of harvest, maybe like a day a week or like a day every 2 weeks or so. And so at the farm we have a team, a team, people from our community that work with us full time, and we work together, through the harvest season, picking the coffee. We pick all of our coffee by hand, and we do all of our process, from harvest to basically the drying and the storage of the coffee and parchment at the farm.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so we pick our coffee. We go through a process of cleaning the coffee. The coffee that we're producing right now, and we kind of got into this last year into, I don't know if you heard much about it, but the world of controlled fermentations in coffee. So we started doing that last year. So the coffee that we're producing right now, it kind of is under a controlled fermentation and environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had like my first fermentation coffee here. I think it was from Colombia, if I'm not mistaken, and it was amazing. Like I'm not gonna lie, it definitely ranks up there with one of the best coffees I've had. I don't know. You could honestly, especially whenever I was brewing it, it had that winey smell to it for some
Mhm.
reason. It was
Yeah.
very different. I like. I don't. I'm going to taste more. All I had was a sample, and obviously it's just like two. I think it was like a 3 ounce little bag that I got, but um, so I haven't really uh got to like cup it that much or anything. But I definitely want to dive into that because that was different. It was very different than what I'm used to, which I was very surprised. So that's cool. So y'all were doing a ferment like how, like what does that even look like? What do you do exactly?
So basically, control environments or control fermentation, it's kind of the idea of having a system or a method that you are developing for fermenting your coffee that you can replicate time after time to help you produce very similar results year after year. So a lot of people use fermentation tanks, and those like vary. They can be plastic type tanks, they can be metal type tanks, stainless steel, and there's a different uh, there are a lot of options out there for doing for the types of containers that you use to ferment your coffee. Some of them are in anaerobic type environments where there is no oxygen coming into the tank. So typically what you do is you have a one-way valve where everything goes out of the tank, but nothing really is introduced inside the tank. So that's kind of the fermentation that we're managing right now with our wash coffee. And then in controlled fermentations, you're basically kind of like wanting to getting to the point that you want to understand what's happening in the fermentation. So you're like reading pH, you're reading Brix, you are taking notes on temperature changes, whether it's like the environmental temperature or the place where the coffee is being fermented, but also the temperature inside of the tank, and kind of like understanding all the different variables that are changing through the fermentation process. And then there isn't really one recipe, there isn't really one thing or one goal. I mean, some people can take that fermentation for 24 hours, some people can take that for like 48, 72, 90 plus hours. And they kind of want to, it's a way of the producers right now are trying to kind of take coffee to the next level and uncover the different elements that the coffee has, and how they can capitalize on that, and bring out new things from the coffee. So it's a very, very interesting world. There's a lot of like innovation happening right now. And there's a lot of people that are like trying new things. By no means we're like pioneers. There's a lot of people that are doing even more complex types of fermentations. I mean, to the point that they're looking at microorganisms under a microscope to like really understand what's happening with during the fermentation process. So yeah, there's a lot of that happening right now. And we've started doing that last year, and we've had really, really positive results with our wash coffee right now.
That's cool. So as far as like the drying process, like the kind of I guess you could say one of the most kind of, what's the word? Um, like the process method that you kind of see the most, the natural drying and then the wet processing. How much extra work is what you're talking about, or is it extra work? Is it kind of more time consuming? It seems like it would be, like having tanks and all that involved and stuff like that. Is it more work?
It's a few more steps in the normal process. So
And
so
then like
typically,
water, are you needing a good bit of water, like access to water and stuff to really be able to do it?
well, if you're doing a wash coffee, you're gonna need water at some point. But I think some of the approaches that we're taking and the approaches that other producers are taking to uh, to processing their coffee um, can take a little bit more water than traditional methods. And by that I mean that there's a process before you enter into fermentation, that where you want to clean your coffee. When you want to wash your coffee, you want to um, float the cherries and kind of eliminate things that you don't want to go into the fermentation tank, whether it's not good cherries, or just rocks and stones and things like that. So there's that initial process that does take some water, where you want to clean your coffee to the best of their ability, so that the coffee, once it goes into the fermentation tank, is it has been clean, and it has been um, left in a state where it is as good as possible to then produce you a good fermentation. Because if you didn't clean your coffee, if you didn't wash your coffee, however you put it into the fermentation tank, then all the other elements added on to that, it's definitely going to impact and influence your fermentation.
Okay.
Just like we would do with any produce that we buy. We don't wash anything, then whatever is attached to it, that's what we're going to consume. So
Gotcha.
it's just part of the process.
Yeah. So after the fermentation process and everything, after that, you're pretty much done with it. It would go to a mill, or do y'all still have stuff y'all do?
So we have stuff that we do. So you ferment the coffee for to achieve whatever goal you want to achieve with your fermentation. And then after that, if it's a wash coffee, it goes through that washing process where you're eliminating the mucilage, and then putting the coffee on drying beds. So we do the drying process at the farm too. And then with our coffee, we're basically, after we have arrived to a certain humidity level, we pack our coffee in grain pro bags and sacks, and then put them in storage at the farm. And then from there, it kind of depends what the goal for that coffee is. So, and we have several different options, at least in our case, that we can go with that. So we have local roasters in Ecuador that from time to time buy our coffee, and they buy green coffee from us. So based on whatever need they have, we would take that coffee that is in Parchment State, we would take it to a milling station, and then just have the coffee milled so that we can deliver green coffee. If that coffee, for example, was to go to a buyer outside of Ecuador and was going to be shipped outside, then depending on who we're working with, or who the buyer is working with, if they have someone that they're working with already, we may just deliver the coffee in Parchment State, and then they would take care of milling the coffee and repackaging the coffee, putting all the codes and everything to go through export and imports. And then
real quick, when you're saying
yeah.
Parchment State, so is that saying some of the parchment is still on the seed, so the mill would actually kind of clean and take all that off?
Mhm.
Is that so?
Yeah.
So once it goes to the mill, that's what you're kind of talking about, just as far as like cleaning and getting it to that green, what we see as the roaster, that actual green coffee then.
Right. So
Gotcha.
what we see as green coffee, it already has gone through. So you have your drying stage, right? You have your coffee cherry, which has your skin, and you either remove or don't remove that skin through the drying process. If you don't, that's natural coffee. But if you do remove that, that's either a honey or a wash coffee. So then it goes through the drying process, but either that skin that is already attached to the coffee bean, or even there's another layer, the parchment layer, that is attached to the coffee during the drying process. That's what kind of hardens, but the coffee bean is inside the green bean. So there you have to take it through another process to read the milling process, the hulling process. I think that's sometimes what it's referred to
Yeah, I've
as
heard
well.
that. Okay, so that's
Uh,
about the only process y'all don't do then, is that end step.
Right. That
Gotcha.
that that end step is what we currently don't do it. And so we don't do it right now. One, because we just haven't gotten to the point of acquiring the machine that we need to do it. But then also two, because storing coffee in parchment, it helps with shelf life of the coffee, as opposed to storing the coffee in green stage. So the majority of our coffee right now has been going outside of Ecuador. So it's best for us to store it in parchment, and then delivered in parchment, so that the company that is taking care of the shipping at the station, they can go through that hulling or milling process and get it to the green state. And for the people that we've worked with in Ecuador, the roasters that we've been working with that need green coffee, it has been fairly easy for us to find people within the industry that have a milling station that we can just go in and take the coffee and have it milled so that we can deliver green coffee. Because most of the time, we're talking about very small quantities when it comes to working with those local roasters.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, do y'all sample roast or anything, or do you have a connection to one of the roasters that buy your coffee? Do you like get to taste your coffee much or no?
So we do get to taste our coffee a lot more now than probably what we did, 2 years ago. We've developed really good relationships with local roasters, and I think that's kind of one of the cool things about the specialty coffee industry in Ecuador. It's a small country, but the people that are in the industry, we've just been able to develop really good relationships, and we can basically work with roasters, really really good high quality roasters, to help us understand the coffee, after it leaves the farm. Like, so what's the end result of all the process that we took the coffee through at the farm level. And how do we develop a roasting profile for this coffee? How do we understand it? So they're really good roasters in Ecuador that have helped us develop that. We even have a couple, I can think of at least 2 or 3 coffee labs where they actually specialize in doing that, helping the producer that may not have the facilities to do that at the farm level, but help them understand what's the end result of their coffee, and helping them cup and all of that. Some of them even partner with the producers, and throughout the year, and things like that. But there's also another I guess segment of producers in Ecuador that have really taken it one step farther, and at the farm they not only produce coffee, but they also have kind of like small labs or small roasters, and those farmers are actually roasters themselves, and they kind of do the whole process themselves, which I think is pretty cool. They understand their coffee from very beginning to the very end, and they can actually develop those roasting profiles for their coffees. There's a lot of that too in Ecuador. And it's a pretty cool what some of those roast producers have also become roasters themselves.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's cool that you can kind of get that feedback, because I can only imagine it probably helps you make adjustments and tweak and do whatever you kind of need to do.
Mhm.
Is it something y'all would ever consider, getting a little sample roaster and, kind of trying and doing stuff like that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably one of our next steps, to be able to start roasting in a small scale, at the farm, just for the sake of understanding the coffee at that level too. As a matter of fact, my brother right now, he is in the process of establishing himself as a roaster. So he's getting into that world, and kind of like, hopefully not too long term, we can have everything at the farm, so that when we open our doors for people to come and visit us, we can provide that whole experience, from beginning to end, and have people see the roasting process, cup the coffee, drink the coffee, and just see it all at farm level. I think that's kind of our goals. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So that's another thing too. You were so basically you're wanting to kind of do like is it like an Airbnb type thing where people come, or is it just like an origin trip, something like that, or is it
I
something
think
y'all
we've
were?
told, yeah, I think we've toyed with both ideas. We definitely want to be an origin trip type of place where people can come in and do coffee tourism and see it firsthand, everything that goes into coffee, and behind the cup that they're drinking, and kind of doing it either as just an origin spot or some type of Airbnb. Yeah, I think all of that is something that we've definitely considered. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be pretty cool. And like I think kind of we were talking about a while back too, like it definitely kind of helps you diversify as well too. Cause I mean, say the coffee prices are down for a season or something, you can still have that type of revenue coming in. And I mean, I have people ask me all the time, like, am I going anytime or do I know anywhere you can go and this, that, and the other? It's one of them things where I know a lot of people go down there, but like navigating the safety and the this, that, and the other, different countries, different things like that. And like, where do you stay when you get down there and stuff like that? I think that'd be pretty cool. I really do. So how is Ecuador? Like, I know, you always hear a lot about Colombia and Honduras and stuff like that. Like, how is living in Ecuador? Is it pretty, I mean, is the government pretty good and politics and everything good or?
Yeah, I think just like with the majority of Latin America, politics in Ecuador are ever changing. It just kind of depends on who's in power and what their emphasis is going to be in their government. So it's changing. Ecuador is, I think, even in the last few years, has probably gotten its name a little bit out there more in terms of tourism. And obviously, with the pandemic, that has been hard on the country. But things are starting to open up a lot more. People can really travel in the country, through the country, and kind of like move around. There's really not a lot of travel restrictions at this point anymore. So it's pretty good. And I would say, it's kind of like the majority of Latin American countries. There's instability sometimes, politically speaking, economically speaking, but then there's also stability. So it kind of depends. It's changing, and it fluctuates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty uneducated as far as like a lot of the countries down there. Like, are y'all a democracy or like what
Mhm.
is Ecuador's political makeup kind of?
Yeah, so very similar, to the US, in the sense of we have a president that gets elected every 4 years. We have a Congress. So and we have the three branches of government as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we have a lot more political parties that you guys have it in the States. Many more. So that's another very interesting dynamic too, when it comes to politics. Just a lot more political parties, and whether or not they come to agreements. That's always a very interesting dynamic in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know yeah, I don't even want to get into our politics. It's pretty crazy. So as far as and I think y'all does Ecuador use our dollar or use the dollar like the US dollar?
Yeah, so
I've
I
heard that.
think
I
that's
didn't know if
that
that was true or not.
yeah, that's another really interesting fact to know about Ecuador, that I think it directly impacts the coffee industry. And it's something that I think is worth mentioning, and worth understanding, for anybody who cares, or even cares about the coffee industry in Ecuador. So our official currency is the US dollar, and it has been for over 10 years now, I would say. We used to have our national currency back in the day, but it didn't do well. We had to switch over and we switched over to the US dollar. So we have a US dollar economy for over 10 years now. And the US dollar in the area is a stronger currency than the rest of the national currencies. And that is important because it directly impacts, talking about coffee, it directly impacts cost of production. So cost of production of coffee in Ecuador is significantly higher than the majority of the coffee producing countries in
I didn't
Latin
think about
America,
that. Yeah.
because labor cost is also a lot more expensive having to pay in dollars than the rest of the other countries. So that's just an interesting fact, to know and to consider when you are looking at Ecuadorian coffee, looking to buy Ecuadorian coffee. There's kind of no way around it. If you have a US dollar economy, uh, you know, prices are going to be more expensive and for certain things, and for us, labor cost is up there, so it directly impacts cost of production for the country.
Gotcha. Well, going into pricing then, so how do you price the coffee? Is it like do you go off like what a standard is for Ecuador at that point as far as market, or do you like really add up like, okay, this is all my cost, this is my time, this is the expenses, and then, put a margin on it to whatever your profit would be? Is it something like that, or is it something that's kind of strictly stated, maybe even by the government? I don't really know how it works. How do you price it?
Yeah.
Like, I
uh,
guess, what do you sell to either the coffee roasters down there or the importers? How do you determine what that price is?
right. As far as I know, there is no government dictated price for coffee. When we started, we were pricing our coffee based on what the industry was telling us that a price of coffee is in Ecuador. Like, and when I talk about price of coffee, I'm talking about pound, of green coffee, the cost of to produce 1 pound of green coffee. So we were going based on that, and there are some interesting studies out there about cost of production of coffee in Ecuador. As a matter of fact, there's a company, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but there's a company called Caravella Coffee, and they
I think I've
work
heard of them.
with, yeah, they're a pretty big coffee importer, and they work in 7 countries in Latin America. And in 2019 they did a study of coffee production in all those different countries, and they were taking a look at fixed cost and variable cost, and kind of taking everything into account to come up with a price, or to even try to understand the price for the cost of production for each of those different countries. I think it's really hard to put a price, because there's so many different factors that go into coffee producing, not just from country to country, but also from farmer to farmer within the same country,
Yeah.
even in the same province, in the same state. So that's, I think, what something that makes it very challenging to come up with a number. But studies like that were definitely a good initial step for us when we were pricing our coffee in our early years, as far as like to try to understand it. But in reality, what we've been trying to do for the past year and a half now, is to truly understand cost of production for us, and that does require, kind of like what you were talking about, really keeping good books of everything that you're putting into the coffee, your fixed costs, your variable costs, your labor, your your equipment, and seasonal too, in terms of, like, you don't put the same amount of labor throughout the whole year. Harvest season is definitely where most of the labor goes into. And then, like I was talking about, equipment that you're using, infrastructure that you're constantly building, or even when you're replenishing your crops, and changing your plans. There's all of that. So that's kind of the approach that we've taken over the last year and a half, to really try to understand cost of production for us, so that we can price our coffee according to that. Make sure that we're not selling ourselves short, or that, but that we're, like, pricing at a level where we can also make a profit.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a very good thing to do. Is not easy to do, but it's a good step in the right direction. At least we feel that way for us, and it's something that we're constantly reevaluating. So and it changes from year to year. So for example, last year our cost of production was different than this year because our yield this year is significantly higher than last year. So we're producing a lot more
What do y'all produce,
this
say, a
year.
year?
So this year we're estimating that we are probably close to, let me think about, if I'm remembering correctly. I think we're probably close to like 4,000 pounds, I think, of coffee. The kind of like a good healthy goal per hectare is to have a yield of like 30 sacks of I think is 100 100 kilos. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing this year, and we really don't know until the year's over, because it's August and we're still going pretty strong. We're still gonna be harvesting in September, and then it's going to slow down from there until the end of the year. But it doesn't really completely stop for us. So it's kind of like at the end of the year, you really have to go back and analyze all the different months and really see, okay, how much did I produce this year?
Yeah. Just to clarify that, so you're not harvesting all at one time. You're basically harvesting, picking the ripe, and you're saying it takes that long for the whole cycle to go through?
So we only pick ripe. So our harvesting are, yeah, we're picking for the majority of the year.
Oh, wow, I did not realize that.
Yeah, whether it's like May, June, July, where we're like picking like like I was telling you about, basically like 4 days, 3-4 days a week, almost like 6 hours a day. But then you can also have, on the other side of the spectrum, like a December month, where you may be picking like one day every 2 weeks for like 6 hours. It's just the coffee goes through the seasons of your maturation season, in terms of like the cherry development, the flowering, and all of that goes into the plant. So it's kind of a seasonal in that sense, but also the seasons influence that. So for example, summer, June, July, and August, where we get most of our sunlight exposure and the temperatures increase, that's when we see the coffee cherries ripen a lot faster than we would see them during the rainy seasons, where the ripening process takes a lot longer. And what we're basically doing is, you handpick your ripe coffee, and then you take it through the whole process. You dry it, you bag it, and then you're like basically, picking, drying, and then you're storing, and then moving the coffee throughout the whole year like that, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. For some reason, I don't know. Just I always think like the harvest season's like 2 or 3 weeks, and then the tree's bare, and then it starts over. So it's not like
Oh no.
that. It's not like that at all.
No,
Wow. Yeah, it's
there's
just so
definitely
weird what you
months.
think you know, and then like whenever you start talking to people, it's like, wow, I'm completely clueless.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
okay.
and I, and I'm not saying that's the same for every
Yeah.
coffee
Yeah.
producing country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Um,
honestly, that's why I want to do this, because like I want to hear what Kenya does. What do they do in Indonesia? Like what's it? How is it different between all of y'all? Because I can only imagine your process is probably completely different than what they do in Kenya and stuff
mm.
like that. So as far as like y'all's struggles and stuff over there, is the lifestyle there pretty good and everything, or how's that?
So some of the challenges that we experience are probably some of the same challenges that I would say farming experiences or is experiencing in a lot of places. So by that I mean that there's a tendency where people are moving to the cities, are looking for a different type of lifestyle. They're looking for to get jobs in bigger cities, so they're kind of moving away from the rural areas. And we've seen that a lot more, at least in the last 5 years. So finding finding a team that can help us through everything that goes into the farm, that is, that's a challenge that sometimes we have to face. And we've been really blessed up to this point. We've been very lucky to be able to find the help that we've needed from the community around us, and that has been a really good thing for us. But it's one of those things that we've thought through, like, as the new generations come, whether or not people are going to make those decisions to completely abandon farming the countryside, and then how are we going to overcome that challenge in terms of the the labor that is
Yeah.
needed to work a farm.
Yeah, I feel that's how it kind of is in the States now up here. Like if you don't have 100,000 acres and, hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment, it's really hard to be a, productive farmer. There's still a lot of small farms, but most of the ones that are really successful, I mean, there's, it's 100,000 head of cattle farm or something, it's like these
Mm,
huge farms you can't even like fathom. It's just went to it's so big now, and it's really I grew up on a little cattle farm, and I mean we never had over like 50 head of cows, and it was just like you every year we kind of just broke even, and Dad finally got out of it, because it's really hard at that small level to really make it, and a lot of the dairy farms around here have all completely dried up and kind of let the huge dairies have it. So,
mhm,
yeah, I can. That's what I feel is something special about down there. Like, it seems like all the farms are still pretty small, and you still have that control over it. Where I mean, our food production is basically in the hands of a very few group of people up here. And if that group was ever to kind of change things up or whatever, I mean that it could really be devastating for, I guess, us, because nobody knows how to do any of that anymore. Like the whole farming aspect,
mm.
like that's rare, very rare that anybody knows how to do any of that. But so yeah, it's pretty cool. So really, I guess, kind of getting into the end, wrapping it up. What's your goal? I know you're kind of going to be eventually probably taking over the farm and stuff. What's y'all's goal with it? Y'all going to continue to pioneer down that trail and build up and add on, or
Yeah, that's definitely been a desire of my family, my siblings, my parents, myself, to be able to continue that legacy that mom and dad have started, that they've worked so hard for many, many years, and um, to just to do well what they've done, and just build upon it. I we've really found something really special in the coffee industry, and it's been really, really good, to be in it for the years that we have been in. And so our desire is to continue to do what we've been doing, and take it to the next level. And by that, things that we were talking about, opening the doors of the farm for it to be hopefully an origin destination for where people can come and stay, and experience coffee, from the very beginning. We kind of as a family, we've been working on building our brand, on putting our name out there in social media. We want to get a website up, where people can learn more about us, learn more about coffee, about how they can work with us, and things like that. This year we are, like I was saying, we're pretty new in the coffee producing world, but this year we're entering some of the coffee producer competitions happening in
nice.
Ecuador, like Cup of Excellence, and there's another one that is also happening later on in the
Yeah.
year, with the goal of giving us a little bit more exposure, and so that people can know a little bit more, hopefully open up more markets for us as well. And we've just over this past year, we've found a really cool area working with small roasters, especially a lot of small roasters in the US. And it has been really, really gratifying to have found that and to be working with them. So we want to continue to, continue to work with people, and I think working with them and with the consumer too so closely, it kind of just helps remove all those gaps that sometimes there are between producer and consumer, and it just allows us to collaborate a lot better and improve things for everybody. So those are some of the things that we have in mind that we want to continue to build upon, make an emphasis on, and yeah, we really like the coffee industry.
That's
We like
cool.
what we're
Do
doing.
y'all sell direct? Though I mean, would y'all sell direct to any farmers up here, or is it kind of out of the question now with shipping and everything?
No, so we would sell direct. So we've actually found a very interesting model right now to work under. Um, we are working with we're small producers, so we're not importers ourselves. Maybe at some point we can work up to be an importer ourselves.
Is that new
Ourselves,
like licenses and certifications and everything? So you would have
right?
to. Okay.
Yeah, we would have to go through the whole process of
Yeah.
of getting all the different permits, and not dealing with customs here in Ecuador and the US, and all of that, logistical transportation of the coffee also, within the US and stuff like that. So we're not there yet, but we've actually been partnering with people that are doing that, partnering with them to help us provide that logistical service so that we can still, at the end of the day, work as direct trade as possible with the roaster, with the consumer, and not just necessarily selling the coffee to the importer and never seeing it again. So having a little bit more of a relational aspect to the coffee. So we've been doing that. We started doing that this year actually, and it has gone really well. We have a few roasters that we've been working with on the West Coast, the East Coast of the U.S., and kind of like as getting it as direct trade as possible under our current circumstances, and then just continue to build upon that.
Right. Yeah. That's so cool. And man, I really enjoy these conversations, dude. Like it's really neat just hearing, what all goes into it, and just the perspective that y'all have down there with it and stuff like that, and just how much work. Like I thought it was just like, you pick one time, takes maybe a week or two, and you're done. But that's only 5 acres, and I can't imagine like the farms that are even larger and larger than that.
Right.
So it's like it's just got to be so much work. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. So I guess wrapping it up, is there anything you want to say? And I'll link. What's your farm's name down there?
Siempre Verde Farm.
What's it mean?
So Siempre Verde, it means always green.
Okay, I knew
Um,
green. I could tell green in there, but I didn't know what the siempre. Okay.
yeah, it means always green, and the history of the name is kind of interesting. When mom and dad started the fern business at the farm, obviously ferns are green, um, and that's kind of how that name started. They named the company Always Green
Yeah, they're
because they were
evergreen too. I
producing.
don't. I think they're green
Mhm.
all year long. So
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's cool. Heck yeah, dude. So yeah, I'll link your site and all that below, and your Instagram. I think is where I found you in the beginning, and like you have a really good Instagram. Like you have like the
Thanks.
stories and stuff on there, and like the videos. I enjoyed seeing that because honestly, I was like, wow, you're pretty knowledgeable at all this stuff. So that's why I
Yeah.
kind of reached out in the beginning, and took me a while to get the whole podcast thing finally going. So
Yeah,
glad
that's
glad I was able to get you on. You're actually gonna be my first farmer episode. So uh thanks for kind of putting up with me and being my first one, getting through all the kinks and everything to
yeah,
get through. So
absolutely.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
So
so social media is definitely what we've emphasized right now. We have our Instagram, we're on Facebook too, and kind of the next step for us, is putting a website out there. But Exactly what you're describing is what we've wanted to do with Instagram. We wanted to build a place where people can come and not just see pretty pictures, but can actually like learn a little bit more about coffee farming, coffee producing,
Yeah.
and what goes into it, and just like provide a little bit more of an inside perspective of what we're doing at the farm, what we're hoping to do with coffee, and just a lot of transparency, a lot of with the specialty coffee, a lot of traceability. Traceability is a big word that gets
Oh yeah.
thrown out there. So that's kind of us making that contributing to traceability. Here
Yeah.
we are, this is what we're doing, and this is where the coffee is coming from. Our coffee comes from. Mhm.
Yeah. The other thing you have done really good, and well, y'all have done really good on y'all's Instagram is like making it relatable. Like
Mm.
seeing your mom and dad on there, like it's almost like a family thing, and it's just really cool. It's like you mix in the knowledge, but you mix in the family aspect of it, and it's like I don't know. After you go through your Instagram, you watch a few videos, it's like wow, like you almost like you're getting to know the person, and I think that's
Yeah,
really cool because selling nowadays I feel is almost like you got to make it so personal to kind of get people to purchase or whatever, buy into your story and everything. And I think it's definitely what you're doing is really good on there. So yeah.
yeah, it's a family business.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
small family business, so we definitely have to emphasize that.
Yeah. Well, Martine, I'm truly appreciate you being on here, and if there's anything you want to tell anybody and you find you anywhere and stuff like that, you can go ahead and do that. If not, I'll like I said, I'll link everything in the descriptions and the comment bars and stuff below. So
Yeah, obviously appreciate the opportunity to talk about coffee in Ecuador, to share a little bit about our experience. I hope this is the first of many conversations that we can have
oh
where
yeah.
we can,
Yeah.
share knowledge and just allow people to see the work that goes behind the coffee that they're drinking. Definitely if people have a chance, definitely check us out on social media, and if people have the opportunity to taste Ecuadorian coffee, to purchase Ecuadorian coffee, whether it's green or roasted, definitely do that. It's a very cool and new upcoming origin. Producers are doing a heck of a job in the country to produce good quality coffee, and it shows. So all the support is always much appreciated.
I haven't really seen too much Ecuadorian coffee, so it's cool to. That's kind of what I wanted to have you on too, because it's one of those. I don't know if it's rare, but yeah, you don't see it in too many coffee shops and stuff now. So
Mhm.
I'd definitely like to see more of it, and that'd be definitely pretty neat. That's about it then. So, all right. Well, I do appreciate you being on, buddy.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Go ahead and
Talk
cut the recorder off real quick. Later. So I truly hope you enjoyed this episode, and I wanted to thank Martine again for hopping on here with me and doing this. It's super cool conversation. I personally learned a lot from it. I did not know much about the fermentation process, and I really never thought about farms really diversifying their crops and stuff like that. And if you want to check out Martine, I'm going to link his information below. Y'all can reach out, buy some coffee, support them any way you can. Next up, we're going to be talking to a coffee importer from El Salvador, and then after that, we're going to be moving into a smaller coffee roaster who is literally just straight crushing it. So looking forward to those two coming up next. Got some pretty good episodes lined up, so I'm anxious to start rolling them out. If you'll have any questions, like always, hit me up in the comments. I'm always down there. Enjoy speaking with you, talking to you, conversing, and yeah, if y'all have anything, like always, hit me up. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that. If you want to support on Patreon, the links are down there. I love y'all. Peace out.